Correct, and you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of money for that company as you'd like to sell it for. It might be worth X amount in your own mind, but what somebody will actually pay for is something very different.
Sure. Yeah, that's what he said. So a lot of owners think a bigger team equals more profit, but you argue that it's the right team, not the bigger team. So what does a high-performing team look like in your world?
Well, I mean, I go with the $350,000 per employee as a base number, and I want to have maximum revenue and profits with the least amount of people. That is a winning strategy for me. It allows us not to, get rid of anyone in case times got slow. The good part about automotive repair is it's pretty recession-proof. So when the economy is doing really well, people buy new cars. New cars still need service. When the economy's not doing well, people don't buy new cars and they need their older cars serviced. So either way, we're servicing cars.
Here now, used to dream broke, but it's clear now. No handouts, had to get down. Now what they fear now. No money millionaire, we here now. Got scars, but I wear that crown. Turn pain to a real account. No money, no excuses, no limits.
Welcome back to the No Money Millionaire Podcast. This is where we talk about mindset, money, mastery, and movement. This show is for the people who are building wealth from nothing, one decision at a time. I'm Dave Webb, your No Money Millionaire. Today's guest is someone who's been in the trenches for decades and actually built something real. The automotive repair industry isn't known for being smooth or simple, but this guy cracked the code on turning chaotic, exhausting operations into profitable, systematic businesses. He's the owner of European Autowerks and the founder of Fuel Coaching. Over 30 years in the game, 7-figure operations, and a track record of helping service-based business owners build teams, systems, and profits. Eric Svedberg, glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
You're very welcome. So why don't you take a second and tell people who you are in your words.
Well, you said my name really well. Most people struggle with the last name. It's Swedish. But yeah, I'm Eric Svedberg, Virginia Beach, Virginia. Grew up in the automotive space from the age of 16. Bought my first shop when I was 22. Started off in the gas business. Transitioned from gas to strictly automotive repair. And then from that shop, bought another shop that was strictly European. Been running that for the past 8 years or so. Decided to give back to the industry and decide coaching other owners and show them how to make more money and run a more smooth and profitable business.
Excellent. So you mentioned you started working at 16, and by 22, you were one of the youngest Amoco dealers in the country. Why don't you tell us about that? What pushed you into the automotive world so early?
Well, I wanted to make money and go on dates in high school, so that was the very beginning story. So a friend of mine was working at a gas station up in my neighborhood. So I said, hey, can you get me a job? He talked to the owner, got me a job, started off working nights and weekends. So that was from 3 to 9, Monday through Friday, and noon to 6 on Saturday, and doing all the glorious jobs of cleaning bathrooms and pumping gas and sweeping the lot and cleaning bays and stuff like that. So then did that for a little while after high school, going to college locally and also still working. Became the lead technician there, still doing college, still working. Okay. Bought my first house when I was 18 because I had saved money. And I was a good saver, that's for sure.
Good. That's what it takes.
Yeah, that was back in 1990. So that was when you could still assume mortgages, the good old days. So therefore you didn't have to qualify. So did that. And then, fast forward to what you asked about as far as age 22, buying the business. So the owner, the person I worked for, was ready to sell the business. He wanted to know if I would be interested, and I was. I didn't think I would qualify. I didn't think that Amoco would accept me. It was an Amoco station, before BP bought Amoco. Yeah. You had to fill out a stack of paperwork, probably 2 inches thick. And then the big wigs come down from Chicago and Maryland and interview you. And I never thought I was going to get through that, being wet behind the ears and not knowing anything hardly. But, I was determined. And I guess they saw something in me because they accepted me. And we were off to the races.
You know, my early working career was in gas stations. I worked for Pennzoil back when they were a gas station, but one of the gas stations that I worked at was Amoco. Right around the time you're mentioning, I mean, I worked at Amoco, I think right around 88, maybe, 1988.
Yeah.
But it was midnight shift, and I've just not cut out for midnight shift. I really wasn't. I was in Detroit, Michigan, and they had just the cubicle. They didn't have the stores at the time to walk in and do all your convenience shopping. It was just the cubicle, and there I would be sleeping on just on my desk, and people banging on the window trying to wake me up to get their gas. I wasn't cut out for it, but I worked for Amoco early on. So
were you selling a lot of cigarettes out of that kiosk?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of cigarettes, and and I was in Detroit, and man, there was some characters out at in the midnight shift in Detroit, Michigan. I'll tell you, there's some interesting times.
Yeah, most of those kiosks had bulletproof glass.
Yeah,
So.
definitely, of course, yeah, definitely. But I had people that would try to work their way inside for whatever story they could tell me. And I'm like, no, I'm not opening this door. Nobody is coming inside this cubicle with me.
If you opened up that door, you probably wouldn't be sitting here with me right now.
Very likely, very likely. And I knew it. I grew up in Detroit, so I knew it. And yeah, every story in the book. But, so when you were going through it and you were there, were there any mistakes that you made that ended up helping shape or have any effect on how you operate today?
I think if you're a long-term business owner, there's so many mistakes. You could, fill a entire notebook full of all the mistakes, and you learn as you go. As long as you're growing, that's what matters. I don't think anybody expects you to be perfect, and I think most people are very reasonable, especially if you own your mistake. So there's been plenty of mistakes where I had to own it for a customer or own it when it comes to an employee and adjust accordingly.
Okay. So people love the idea of owning a business until actually the reality hits, and payroll, and then the hiring and the cash flow, and and then being chained to the work. People understand how much you actually have to put in once you own the business. But you've lived the 80-hour week and the stress. What are the biggest traps you see business owners fall into?
Number one, they think they can do it all and they don't ask for help. It's really great to have a mentor or a coach that's been there, done that.
Sure.
Learn from them. I mean, you could take someone that has 20, 30, 40 years of experience, gone through everything that you will go through, and why not learn it early versus, the school of hard knocks. Yeah. I had my first business coach in my 40s.
Oh, wow.
And I wish I had one in my 20s. I just thought I could do it all. I'm going, I can go through this business and make it successful. And I, had the nervous days of, can I make payroll? Business is cyclical. So therefore, it's up and down, and customers up and down, and the markets are up and down, and it can be rough. But once you figure it out, once you learn to create systems and processes, hire great people, look at the numbers, understand cash flow, understand profit and loss statements, balance sheets, all that, it's so much easier.
I bought a property, and it was one of my earlier properties, and it was 4 storefronts at the bottom floor and then 16 apartments upstairs. And so one of the storefronts were empty, and my partner and I, we thought, what if we put a convenience store in here, and service the apartments upstairs in the local area in the community. And he ended up moving out of state. So I was trying to, work it. And I tell you, doing the payroll every week. And so, I renovate my own apartments. I manage my own apartments. And so before I would start my day going to renovate apartments, here I am running and getting inventory, driving it to the store, trying to give them the inventory they needed for the day. And, I always thought it was the Walmarts and the Costcos that put the small business owner out of business. But it turned out to, from my experience, it turned out to be the actual stores, distributors, the brands. I could get Coca-Cola cheaper from Dollar General or Walmart or some of these big box stores that I thought put the small guy out of business. I could get my products cheaper from them than I could going direct to the manufacturer. And I was running around like crazy. It was too much time. I ended up just saying, I don't want to do this anymore. It was just too much.
Yeah, when you're selling a commodity, it's a race to the bottom sometimes. And it sounds like you were doing a lot of stuff you hated. So I'm glad you got out of that business and started doing something you would actually enjoy. There's a lot to be said about following a dream, doing something you love, something you have passion for. You'll be so much more successful than hating your job every day.
I had the apartments and I liked what I was doing. This was just, we thought, if we just get our rent, that would be great. But that's not what happened. Now all of a sudden I'm a store owner and I'm doing everything that goes along with it. And it was just, and on top of everything else I was doing, it was just, and we had a second location that we were leasing and we were going to open the second one. And before it even got that far, I was like, no, I'm not. My partner was like, what do you mean? I said, no, you come out here and run it. I'm not doing it. It's just, I didn't like doing the payroll. Hiring people, that's its own nightmare.
Oh yeah. That's a whole skill set on its own.
So you said you felt trapped by your own business at one point. So what changed that? What got you out of that cycle?
When you create systems and processes, which makes it easier to scale, makes it easier when it comes to hiring. So therefore, hire someone new and, hey, this is how we do this particular position. And there's a process, there's a system, there's a way we do everything. It makes life much easier. I now have a manager that follows that entire playbook. And therefore, I go in one day a week to my shop. The rest of the time I'm coaching or doing whatever. And if I didn't have all that in place, I could never do that. I could never stay away. I really don't even have to go in the one day a week. I just still enjoy going to the shop. Sure. I still love automotive. I still love business. I still love talking to my people and seeing what's going on and seeing customers, shaking hands, all that.
I knew a person that ran a retail store and she was meticulous in her system, in her SOP. I mean, she had a manual for absolutely everything: dress code, how you greet customers, how there was stock in the inventory, you name it, to hiring. I mean, I looked at her book and I was like, wow, extremely thorough. And she ended up selling that business and did really well on it.
Nice. And that's one extreme. You can systemize everything, which is great. Sometimes it's a little overboard for some people and some businesses. And, I'm not sure how some employees feel about having a Bible handed over to them. Hey, here's what you need to learn. I try and keep my systems simple so people will actually read them and follow them. I also follow the 80% rule that I'm cool covering 80% of the position and the last 20% are the one-offs. And that's why I hire great people so they can handle those one-off situations, because you can't have a system that covers every scenario that could ever happen.
Sure. So you've proven something that most business owners don't want to hear, that you can't scale chaos. So explain why simple scales and complex fails.
Well, simple scaling is something that, like I said earlier, you can train, you can bring new people on board. You're always going to have 20% of your staff that's coming and going based on whatever situation. Either they're not working out, they're moving, different life situations. So when you're having that type of turnover in a typical business, you need to have systems that are easy to follow, simple to teach, simple for the employee to use to be successful at their job. And then you can, if you want to be a multi-store owner, then you can just rinse and repeat, pick up that pod system, and the playbook and do it at another location. If it's complex, it's very hard to get everybody on the board and going in the same direction.
I spoke with somebody not too long ago, and their whole thing was about positioning businesses to sell them. And he said that if you don't have a system where someone can walk in and just follow, it can't run without you actually being hands-on, you don't really have a saleable business. You just really have a job.
Correct. And you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of money for that company as you'd like sell it for. It might be worth X amount in your own mind, but what somebody will actually pay for is something very different.
Sure. Yeah, that's what he said. So a lot of owners think a bigger team equals more profit, but you argue that it's the right team, not the bigger team. So what does a high performing team look like in your world?
Well, I mean, I go with the 350,000 per employee as a base number. And I want to have maximum revenue and profits with the least amount of people. That is a winning strategy for me. It allows us not to, get rid of anyone in case times got slow. The good part about automotive repair is it's pretty recession proof. So when the economy is doing really well, people buy new cars. New cars still need service. When the economy's not doing well, people don't buy new cars and they need their older cars serviced. So either way, we're servicing cars.
I worked in the automotive industry for a short period of time. Coming out of Detroit, Michigan, I think it would be rare you found someone who didn't, and I sold cars for a little while, but I think maybe 1 year. I enjoyed it, but I ended up moving and I never did it again.
I'm definitely not a car salesman. I'd feel like I wanted to fix everything on the car if it ever broke, because I'm in the repair business and I like fixing cars. I like taking something broken, fixing it, and the joy of what comes out of that. I've been doing that since I was a little kid. My dad's a mechanical engineer, so I guess it's in my genes. But no, I'd be a terrible car salesperson.
I never had done it. And, matter of fact, I didn't even own a tie before I got that job. I bought my first tie the morning of my interview, and I was at the store and they ironed my dress shirt for me. They pressed the shirt for me at the store, and I bought my tie and I went for the interview. But I enjoyed it. I like talking to people, and I used to tell people, I said, I'm not here to sell you. I'm here to help you buy what you're trying to get. My job is to get you what you want, and it worked well. It was okay for me, but I never continued. The industry was a little intense.
It's intense, and you hit the nail on the head. You're solving people's problems. They have a problem. They don't have transportation or wherever it happens to be. And if you're in sales, if you can help that person and guide them and help solve their problem, you're golden.
Yeah. I was the one that used to give problem customers to. One time I was out on the lot, and there was a customer that was on the lot, and I hear my name get called. And they're like, David, come to the desk right now. And so I told the customer, excuse me, I'll be right back. And when I was speaking to my manager, he said, blow that customer out of here. He said, he's been here and wasted every sales rep's time. And I said, well, if the guy keeps coming back, he obviously wants to buy a car. So I went out and I just asked him, I say, listen, my manager just told me you've been here and spoken to every rep we have. Do you want to buy a car or not? And he said, yeah, I do. And I said, okay, well, let's get that car for you, And they ended up, the guy wanted at this time a CD player in the car. And the dealership, I already known this guy was, a tough customer. They, the whole dealerships thing is sell what you have on the lot. But they didn't have a car at the time that had the CD player in it. So they put an aftermarket one in. At that time, the CD player would connect through the radio station. You would dial it to like 88 something, and then the CD player would play. And the guy hated it. It never worked right. And so they ended up living with that customer forever. And I was like, why didn't you guys just get him the car? We sold him the car. Why didn't you just give him what he wanted? But I don't make those decisions. That was the higher up. But they ended up living with that guy
Technology has changed a lot since then.
Yeah, it sure has. So I've read that you talk a lot about everyone rowing in the same direction. Why is that so hard for business owners to create?
Well, you need an overall vision. And you need people on board with that vision. So, a lot of times if you have an employee and you say, hey, this is where we're going, this is our vision, this is where we want to be a year from now, and we want you to, go with us on this journey. Are you cool with that? And, most employees are, and some employees have, another avenue they want to go down. They have another, job or career they want to do, and they're
Sure.
not necessarily for the right reasons. They just want a paycheck at the time. That's that 20% I'm talking about. But the
Yeah.
other 80%, yeah, I want to come along with you for that journey. The other part is if you really invest in your employees and really figure out what their personal, professional, and financial goals are. Those might be 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years. And
Okay.
with specificity, and you talk about those, and you aren't going to do them for that person, but you're certainly not going to get in the way, and you're certainly going to help encourage and see what you can do to have them be able to obtain those goals.
Sure. Sure.
InvestorFi, the #1 lending source for first-time and early-stage investors. Just learned how to find your first deal? Let's get it funded. InvestorFi, the only No Money Millionaire certified lender. Find us at InvestorFi Lending or visit our website at investorfilending.com. InvestorFi, turning new investors into trained professionals. What are you waiting for? Schedule your free review today.
So how do you build alignment without becoming or being a micromanager on your team?
You have to be okay with mistakes. Dan Martell taught me 80% done by someone else is 100% awesome. As soon as you can figure that out and be okay that people are going to make mistakes and you don't have to fix every single thing, life just the business just opens up. It's so much easier. You'll drive yourself crazy trying to fix every mistake by every person in a business, especially if you have a team of any size whatsoever.
Sure. I heard that similar 80% from Barbara Cochran on Shark Tank.
Okay.
And I heard her say one time that, if you're getting 80% out of your employees, you're getting 100. Be happy with getting 80.
Yeah, it's the truth. Think about car repair. Car repair and comebacks go hand in hand.
Sure.
If I ever coach a business and they tell me they have 0 comebacks, I know, okay, that's not true. Everybody has comebacks, especially post-COVID when there were supply chain issues and everybody was reboxing Chinese parts and so on and so forth. We're still dealing with that. You get a reputable part that you've been selling forever and you get 3 in a row that fail. There's a reason for that, and sometimes it was that supply chain.
Sure. So in your experience, when you see top performing techs and plumbers, electricians, people in the trades, what do you see they want from a shop owner?
They want someone that believes in them. They want honesty. They want professionalism. They want security. They want someone that cares. They want benefits. They want real conversations. There's so many people that go for a job, they go for the interview. I've heard over and over again, and an owner promises them the world, and the
Sure.
employee shows up. And keep in mind, if you're an automotive technician, usually you're showing up with a tow truck also because they're towing your toolbox over. So it's
Right,
an
yeah.
investment. And so they're unloading toolboxes into a shop, and then fast forward a week, the technician's like, wait a minute, this is totally different than what they told me. They're looking for the opposite of that. They want real honesty, security, real conversations, and someone that believes in them.
Sure. And now, I think, is there a shortage in service trades? Very
Huge.
few people doing anything effective. What do you think?
It's a huge shortage. It's been a shortage for going on 30 years. So,
Oh, wow.
we're about the same age because we worked at the gas station at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, I'm a product of the 80s, and from the 80s, 90s into the 2000s, if you talk to teachers, if you talk to guidance counselors, they all said the same thing. If you don't go to college, you're not going to get a great career. And so we just drove people college, when a lot of these kids do really good in the trades. They love working with their hands, just like me. They like taking things apart, figuring out how things work, putting things back together, whether this is an electrician, plumbing, automotive. There is so much opportunity, six-figure incomes for these guys and girls. And then a portion of them can start their own business, whoever's motivated to do that.
Man, you're right though about having the toolbox. I mean, the tow truck full of tools, and then unloading, and then I understand completely. Every industry has people looking for some hidden shortcut. You've been around long enough to know what's real and what's nonsense. So let me ask you this: is there a secret sauce? Or is there a special secret about scaling a business?
Strictly automotive or any business?
Well, in your experience, I guess, let's just speak from your perspective.
Well, one secret sauce as far as scaling, you can scale one individual store and make it run 100%. You have to have everything in place. You have to have the right size building. You have to have the right size parking lot, the right size team. If you would like to do any, numbers north of seven figures. So therefore, there's a lot of shops that are six figures, but if you would like to do 2 million or 3 million, you have to have a facility that can handle that. There's another way of thinking where, maybe you have a facility that's 4 bays and, 5 employees, and it can do 1.5 million. And therefore you want to scale that and own 10 stores. That's another way of doing it. Sure. If you're going to do it that way, that's when I was talking about having a pod system. Like, okay, we have this many techs, we have this many service advisors, we have one manager, and we have a playbook. And we've made that work. The numbers are dialed in, our pricing is correct, and you pick up, rinse and repeat, find another location, do the exact same thing.
So do you think there's a difference between owning a job and owning a business?
100%. You talked about micromanaging.
Yeah.
If you're a micromanager, you're probably owning a job. You're probably running around like a crazy person, Are you carrying a stick or a carrot? Right. So I've seen both. Usually the guys that are girls that are micromanagers, they're carrying the stick.
Okay.
Owning a job is owning a business is when really you're the visionary. This is the vision for the business. This is where we're going. I'm going to come up with the big ideas, and other people are going to help me get there.
Nice. Yeah, the woman I mentioned, she's like the closest one I had seen run a really successful business, and was able to sold it to the parent corp of Circle K, if you're familiar with Circle K.
Yes.
And sold it to their parent corp. And I guess it was that she had just such the system, and I don't think she micromanaged. She delegated well and had everybody, handling their position and their roles. She just, had the way she wanted things to run. And, and so, when it came time to sell it, she was able to, step out. They came in, and I really believe it had a lot to do with how well her system was in place that, she was able to sell it the way she did.
That's a great story, and I love hearing about successful female business owners. There's not enough of them out there. I don't coach any female business owners. It's all males, and there's a real lack in my industry of female business owners. There's some out there, but it's not the majority for sure.
Sure. There was one female sales rep when I worked. It was Cadillac. I sold for Cadillac, and there was one female sales rep there, and she did amazing. She was sharp, but it was rare. You didn't see many.
Yeah. There's probably more now.
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine. So, do you think consistency is more important or would beat inspiration?
Well, consistency beat inspiration. I guess I'd have to have I would have to have both.
Okay.
The inspiration is what I was talking about with the vision and, hey, here's where we're going, and I'm inspiring people to follow. Consistency is how I run the business. So I'm consistent when it comes to our processes. I'm consistent how we handle comebacks. I'm consistent whether we're going to do the right thing, because we're always going to do the right thing by the way of the customer. We're not going down the road of a shady operation and hiding things and taking advantage of a customer who can't see what we're doing because there's a shop in the back that they don't see what's happening to their car. So what's good about that consistency is the employees know what to expect. So it's not like it's a surprise every day they show up.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I guess she inspired, I keep referring to her. I just watched it. It was a success story. She sold it for, she did really well for herself. I don't live in California anymore, so, that's where she was. But she inspired. She did. She wanted everybody to be better than when they started with her. She wanted their position and what they were trying to achieve, whether they're getting new vehicles or whatever they're doing. She wanted them to excel, but she was extremely consistent in her system.
Sounds like she was doing the personal, professional, and financial goals for each individual, like I spoke about earlier.
Exactly.
Where if you know that for your employees, whether it be 1 year, 3 year, long-term, 5 year, 10 year, whatever it happens to be, and you truly want that for your people, they can feel it, and they'll be extremely loyal and want to help you get to where you want to go and achieve your goals.
Yeah, and they were, and she did. She achieved that. So what's one change that you could recommend a business owner could make this week that would create an immediate difference in their profitability?
I guess the easiest one is to pick anywhere between 4 and 6 key performance indicators, KPIs, to look at and to start measuring them and looking at them every single week. You don't necessarily have to look at them every single day unless your business requires that. But every single week, look at those and then make incremental changes to improve each one of them. And then that will immediately show results on the bottom line.
I was speaking with someone, a little while back, and they were talking about like systems and stuff. And they were saying these KPIs, a lot of people don't even do it. They're kind of just going by like how they feel about stuff, and they don't have even their baseline or if they're doing better, or they don't even have really an idea of what they're doing.
It does not surprise me. I've met a lot of different business owners, and I can attest that some of them feel that way. In the automotive space, I think the vast majority of properly run automotive shops, KPIs are drilled into you. So you're looking at total sales, you're looking at gross profit percentages, car count, average repair order, comeback numbers, so it's a thing for automotive for sure, but there's no reason why any business can't have a list of KPIs. Net promoter score is one of the easiest to follow. How do your customers feel about your business?
Sure. I'm pretty, I have rentals. And so I try to make sure, that I provide, and a lot of them are efficiency apartments, studio units. They're not really high end, but I try to provide them or make them the best that I can for what they are. And, and getting the reviews, from tenants about living there and what they feel about that. And I think that's great. When I hear tenants talk about how they feel about living in any of my apartments, and they're bragging, they're happy about it, and commenting about it. I think it's great. You don't see that often.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I think in your industry and I have rental properties also, it's a different business, but I don't probably have as many as you, but I have 3 single family homes.
Okay.
But I think tenants really appreciate when they have an issue and you actually fix it in a very timely manner. That if they have a plumbing issue and you actually send a plumber to fix it and you don't wait 3 weeks, that goes over very well with people, and I'm sure they appreciate it and would give you a great review.
Yeah, that's one of the compliments that I did get from somebody. She said she never lived in an apartment before where, things were taken care of promptly, and she thanked me for it. She was really happy. She told me she's not going anywhere. She's like,
nice lifelong renter for you.
Yeah, I said that's great. She had a ceiling fan issue, and I didn't want to keep dealing with it. It was there when I took over the building. And I saw it, and I just replaced it. I just put a new ceiling fan in there, and it's just little things like that. And so yeah, she was thank you very much.
Yeah, fans are so affordable nowadays. You can
exactly.
It used to be in the dating ourselves. I mean, fans were $200-300. Now a fan's $79 for a nice one.
Yeah,
that doesn't is not off balance when you install it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that much really, and that's what I said. I try to make them really as nice as I can for what they are, and and people really appreciate it.
Remember the old days when you put up a ceiling fan, they give you the little clip-on weights so that you could bounce the fan out. So
yeah,
now you don't even need it because they're perfectly balanced.
Yeah. So you've built 7-figure operations.
Mm-hmm.
You've coached owners in the trenches. So what made you say, I'm going to start coaching businesses?
Really, because I love the industry and I love giving back. And I was always helping people in the past, but I finally decided I could probably monetize this and have a real business doing this and helping people in a way that makes a difference in their lives and their families' lives. And there's a saying, if someone pays, they pay attention. So when I was doing it before I was monetizing it, they would take my advice and some people would take it, some people wouldn't, just blow me off or whatever it happens to be. And then I would watch their operation. I'd be like, I so clearly see what's going on, but they won't do what I say to fix it. And when they're actually paying me, all of a sudden they have a piece of paper and a pen. They're making notes. They're coming back on the next week's call and telling me all the things they changed and the improvements. If I say, hey, I need you to listen to 7 sales calls a week, which is one of the most painful things on earth is to listen to your salespeople on a recorded line. They come back the next week. Okay, I did what you said, and we need to make these changes. And it's just so much fun to help them be successful. And another side of the coin is the family side, the family life. I coached this one shop, and his wife was in the business and she hated it. She absolutely hated working the front counter of an automotive shop. Okay. And so within the first couple weeks of me helping him, I'm like, why in the world is she working there? Why do you have someone working there that can't stand that? Like, what can we do to get her out of that and get her doing something that she actually enjoys? And within a month, she was out. She was doing something else. He brought in a real service advisor that's what that person wanted to do for a living. And his marriage just got better and better. So it's not always business.
Sure. So once you explain what is fuel coaching and how does it work?
Well, I coach business owners, service-based businesses, so it doesn't have to be automotive. Obviously, I know automotive very well. And it's one-on-one with business owners. We go through theory of constraints, all businesses, whether it's FedEx, UPS, Starbucks, automotive, have marketing, sales, production, and delivery. So we go through all those. We see where the issue is, because usually I'm coaching them because they need help. They're not uber successful. That's why I'm in the picture. Most of the time when I go in, it's in marketing and sales because many shop owners or electricians or plumbers start off doing that trade. So if there's something they know, it's how to do plumbing or it's how to fix a car, it's how to move cars to a shop. So usually production is not the biggest issue. Later on, as we fast forward maybe 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, we start fine-tuning the production side for more efficiency so they can scale and make more profits. But we're usually concentrating on sales and marketing first, getting that up to speed. Also, looking at numbers, KPIs, profit and loss statements, setting the right foundation, making sure they have the right insurance, making sure they have a bookkeeper, making sure they have a real accountant, make sure they pay their taxes, A lot of it's mindset, also working HR, you name it, all parts of a business. Usually meet with them weekly for an hour. And my whole goal is to work myself out of a job. So the sooner I can do that with a business owner, I feel more successful I have been.
And so is it always one-on-one, or are there group programs? Is there a difference?
I'm starting a group program because so many shop owners have asked me to coach service advisors. So I'm going to start a service advisor group program. I'm trying to decide when is best during the day to do that, because obviously the service advisors are usually working during the day. I don't necessarily want to do this at night, but I might. So I'm working that program. Probably get, a few people on board, test drive it a little bit, build the plane as I fly it. And then some people have asked me to do a group coaching program for managers. I've been hesitant for the group program in the beginning because of what I said earlier. If you pay, you pay attention. So usually it's the owner that's paying for these programs. So I have people that would be on these calls that aren't actually paying the bill. So you have to have the right people on these calls that are leaning in and wanting to listen and wanting to improve their own performance, their own job.
Sure. Now, earlier you mentioned you didn't have your first mentor or coach until you were 40.
Correct. And
so do you still have any type of coaches or mentors that you work under or look up to? Or
I do. I actually have 3. So personally, and I always say you should never have a coach that does have a coach. So it's a thing. So Dan Martell's my coach. I'm in his quantum program, and I was in his elite program, and then I went up to his quantum program. So that's a small group. So that's like 10 of us or something like that. And then I have a financial coach that all we talk is finances once a month. Look at my balance sheet, personal balance sheet, see where I'm going next and what I need to do. And, we fine tune that. And then I have a guy who we meet weekly, and all we work on is my personal goals. So we set at the beginning of the year a big vision and big goals, and then each week we drive towards that and put things in place so that the ball moves every single week towards that big vision, big goal. That one's a lot of fun. So
nice. I've been a big reader. My struggles, people ask me how I got into real estate, and it was trial and error. It was a lot of mistakes. It was learning what not to do, over a great period of time. But during all of that time, it was reading. Reading one book that was huge to me was called The Science of Getting Rich. It was from early 1900s, like 1905 or something, and it was free. I just, they say things come to you when you're ready to receive them. And I guess I was ready at that point because it was big about mind shift, and it really helped me. So were there any books or a lot of reading in your path?
Yeah. I'm a big proponent of reading 10 pages of nonfiction every single day. Okay. So that's part of my morning routine. I think a must read for every entrepreneur is the E-Myth. It's a fable of someone that is good at a certain trade, and everybody says, "Oh, you're so good at this. You should start your own business." So the person starts their own business, and then everything we've been talking about during this past 45 minutes, they experience all the not so good stuff and how hard it is, and they're like, "Oh, it sure was easier when I was just doing my trade and didn't run this business," because it's 2 very different skill sets. Yes. So the E-Myth is really good. Making money is killing your business. That's the name of the book. Making money is killing your business. That one is like the modern day business plan. I love that one. And then Dan Martell's book, once you're making real money, once you have a business, you're doing well, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. That's when you can really start scaling and, when to hire an executive assistant who can take a ton off your plate and open up a whole new world.
Well, I'm gonna have to add those 2 to my library. I'm gonna have to check those out. The Science of Getting Rich was huge for me because it really helped me change my mindset. It breaks it down and it says like there's two different mindsets. There's a competitive mindset, or there's the creator mindset. And, the competitor is, the pie only has so many pieces and, I got to get my piece or there won't be one for me. And the creator mindset was, I'm just going to create what I need. It's, I'm going to create my own pie. And it was a big shift for me. And so through your experience or your reading, is there, do you feel there's a mind shift that every owner needs?
For sure. You get stuck in the day to day and you think, okay, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Every day I go in, I do this, I do this, I do this. But when you have a growth mindset, when you're thinking 10x all the time, and once you reach that, you 10x again. When you think there's nothing you can't do, there's no ceiling, it's a game changer.
Nice. Thank you. So before we wrap it up, you've been in business for over 30 years. Excuse me. You've been in business for over 30 years. You have to have a funny story, something that only someone that's been through the trenches can appreciate. Share something with us before we end today.
I'll share the one with my executive. It's the most recent, so I'll share the one with my executive assistant. So my girlfriend had a birthday, a few months ago. And so I had picked out some flowers and I put him in charge of getting those put together, and told him exactly where to get them and which ones. So I felt like I was doing my due diligence because I picked them out, but he was doing the legwork of getting them sent. What I did not tell him to do was fill out a card, which he took upon himself to fill out. So when the flowers arrived and she opened this card, okay, I walked over and she's like, "Oh, you got me flowers." I'm like, "Yeah, I hope you like them." She's like, "You didn't write this card." And, instantly I was like, "What card?" Like, no, I didn't write a card. I'm like, "There's a card?" Yeah. And I think he chat GPT'd this thing. Right? Because I think it said something like, "I love you. My love is as high as the mountains," and some other stuff that I would have never said in a million years. And so there was a good example of how not to use an executive assistant.
That's funny. That's funny. And people using AI that, can kind of, make it very telltale. That's what they were doing,
Yes.
I use AI, for, proofing documents. Somebody sends something to me, a lease or something, I'll send it into AI and ask them to, proof it. Does anything stand out? Is it heavy-handed in any direction? So I do use AI, but not to write things for me.
No, not for that. I use AI every day, and my shop uses AI every day. So it's not going away. It's only getting bigger.
No, it's impossible not to embrace it. At least it should be impossible not to. So for the listeners who know their business should be performing better, who want systems, better teams, and more profit, where can they find you and learn more?
If they go to gofuelcoaching.com, they can read a little bit more about me. They can book a 20-minute free call. We can discuss what they have going on, see where I can help. The number one thing I do is try and bring value. If I can't bring value, maybe I know someone that can. But I'd enjoy and love to help any of your listeners that need it.
Nice. Thank you. Eric, I appreciate your time. It's been a solid conversation. What you're doing is needed. Most business owners are 1 or 2 systems away from finally breaking out of survival mode. So to everyone listening, if you're building a service business, go take a look at Eric's coaching platform, Real Systems, Real Experience. Thanks for listening to the No Money Millionaire Podcast. If this brought you value, please share it with someone who needs it. Eric, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming and sharing all your insight with us.
Thanks for having me,
No
Dave.
money millionaire, we here now. Used to dream broke, but it's clear now. No handouts, had to get down. Now on what they fear now. No money millionaire, we here now. Got scars, but I wear that crown.